Will you be blind in that eye for life?
Yes, I will be blind for life. They said my globe was ruptured. I had my lower lid was cut up, and they had to take skin from my temple to fix it. There's a lot to it. I don't remember all the things that they said. I have fractures in my skull that they can't fix, and I can't sneeze or cough because it's dangerous too.
For the longest time, I have thought that unbelievable dork on Twitter, that Bob Krassentine, I thought he had the most feminine voice I have seen on a birthing person with a beard. I try not to make fun of Bob too much since, it's not his fault that he has failed to reach puberty in his 40s. But whoever the hell the kid is in that clip, not only did the brutal clash with ice take away his eyesight, it seems abundantly clear that it also took the bass out of his voice. When you initially see this clip, most people would naturally feel sorry for this young man who clearly aspires to be a young woman. The poor kid just admitted that every time he sneezes, he accidentally releases toxic ass gas. 21-year-old kid got his whole life ahead of him, and one night, one moment, one monumental mistake, one lapse in judgment changed the rest of this young man's life. These are the consequences. This is what can happen when you interfere with an ice operation. The only thing this kid had to do was stay home. The only thing he had to do was not allow himself to be indoctrinated by deacons at Woke United Methodist. But this indoctrination seems to be happening with a lot of young people. Have you noticed? A lot of these anti-American protesters, have you noticed that a lot of them are young? Have you noticed that a lot of these woke white women are wrinkle-free without the assistance of Botox? Have you ever wondered why? Young people are the most vulnerable. They're easier to manipulate. Young people, especially young men, they are more inclined in their early 20s or late teens. They are more inclined to act on emotion. They're more inclined to act first, ask questions later. One of my good friends in high school and college was also quick to lose his temper. Unlike the kids pretending to be tough in the streets fighting ice, my friend was actually a legitimate ass kicker. Now, he was incredibly loyal. If he had your back, he had your back no matter what. The problem with him was you never knew when something was going to happen. When you went out partying with him, it was never a matter of if, it was always a matter of when. Some dude stares at him for too long. Next thing you know, all you see is ass and rapidly moving elbows. He randomly runs into someone who had pissed him off months or maybe even years before. There was no talking. There was no, let's take this outside and talk about it, discuss it. 1 second, he's calm. The next, he's throwing someone through a window. He was incredibly reckless. He never thought about the consequences in the moment. He never thought about things like, this dude could be holding a knife, or even worse, a gun. The crowd of 10 football players around him could be his best friends and jump me. I could end up in the hospital, or maybe even the morgue. He never thought about anything like that, and he lost his life before we reached the age of 30. Unfortunately, that's how it is when you're young. You don't think about the consequences. You don't think about how one mistake can alter the rest of your life. The young man in the clip at the beginning of the video that I showed you, who appears to desperately want to be a young woman, he found this out the hard way. He interfered with ice, and now his 21-year-old ass is blinded for life. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Today on the second channel, going to be talking about another gambling scandal in college basketball. You know, at this point, College basketball is no different than the WWE. It's not real. At least WWE openly admits that their combat is orchestrated. The NCAA continues to present college basketball like it's a legitimate competition. Dozens of players are being accused of fixing games. I'll give you all the details, so click the link in the description or the pinned comment below and subscribe to the second channel. Yesterday morning, Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, he continued to pour fuel on the flaming ass fire in his dump of a city by referring to ICE agents as invaders. If you didn't have the context, you would think that Mayor Jake was talking about Somalian immigrants. Imagine if your town was invaded by thousands of people who don't share your values. Imagine if the Mall of America was turned into the Mall of Somalia. Imagine if people were wandering the mall wearing apparel that only showed their eyes. That is what we are dealing with in Minneapolis, Stan. We have been invaded. Unfortunately, Mayor Jake wasn't talking about the mass invasions of Somalians. He was talking about ICE. Jake, along with the governor of the Minnesota dump, who is also the proud owner of Timmy's Tampons, they continue to fan the flaming ass fire with their incredibly toxic mouth farts. Listen to Mayor Jake's comments, and then I'll show you the end result or the consequences. Watch for yourself.
Imagine if that city was suddenly invaded by thousands of federal agents that do not share the values that you hold dear. Imagine if your daily routines were disrupted. The local cafe that you eat at was shut down because they're scared that their own family might get torn apart.
These grown men, these so-called leaders, they are encouraging young people to get into altercations with their own federal government. And in the vast majority of cases, the end result is always the same. They get their ass kicked and they get arrested. ICE agents are highly trained. Many of them enjoy the jobs that they're doing. Saw a clip yesterday of an ICE agent in Minneapolis, Stan. He loved his job so much, he said he would do it for free. Like I told you guys yesterday, this is basically a civil war. Problem is, one army is superior while the other army is the drizzling shits. ICE agents are highly skilled. They're experienced. Meanwhile, the woke army consists of doofus kids in their early to mid-20s. Blue-haired Claire questioning Quentin. The woke army consists of young men with nose rings so the chain can be easily applied when they're insubordinate to Captain Doofus. The ICE army is under control. They are highly organized. The woke army is overly emotional, full of fake outrage. Question is why? Why are they so mad? Well, Uncle Casey, isn't it obvious? The Gestapo is deporting their friends. The Gestapo is breaking up good Christian families. I don't remember seeing this outrage when Barry Obama was our fearless leader. You guys remember Barry, right? I think we can all agree that doofus Democrats see Barry as their Lord and risen king. When he was president, Barry had a very strict policy on illegal immigration. Watch for yourself.
Won't you at least consider unilaterally freezing deportations for the parents of deferred action kids?
My job in the executive branch is supposed to be to carry out the laws that are passed. Congress has said, here's the law when it comes to those who are undocumented, and they allocate a whole bunch of money for enforcement. Young people who have basically grown up here are Americans that we should welcome. We're not going to have them operate under a cloud, under a shadow. But if we start broadening that, then essentially I would be ignoring the law in a way that I think would be very difficult to defend legally.
You could make the case that Obama was one of the strictest presidents with illegal immigration. So why are they protesting now? Why are identifiers in the LGBT angry with law enforcement? Why are woke white women interfering in ICE investigations? Why are woke white women allowing themselves to be used as pawns? Why are they willingly putting themselves into dangerous situations? You know, as I was taking a shower last night, I was listening to clips of Dave Ramsey. One of the callers was a woke white woman who owned a business in San Francisco. She didn't provide specifics on the business, but she admitted that her company was on the brink of bankruptcy because of Donald Trump's eradication of the disease of diversity. I got to thinking, and this is pure speculation on my part. Obviously, a lot of these rioters, peaceful protesters, a lot of the dorks that you see in the street, they're paid to be there. But there are also some that are doing the work for free, fighting the good fight for free. There are some that are not being paid to be outraged. They're actually legitimately outraged. The question, again, is why? Maybe, just maybe, woke white women are involving themselves because their diversity money train has turned into the Bruce caboose. Maybe their anger has nothing to do with ICE. Maybe their outrage has nothing to do with immigration. Immigration is just being used as a disguise for their real anger. When John Biden was president, woke white women were thriving. So were identifiers in the LGBT community, black women. Anyone who belonged to a marginalized group was economically thriving under Johnny B. Biden. They were being paid to speak at these doofus conferences. I'm sure they were receiving grants from the government for their so-called businesses. With John Biden, diversity wasn't a political cause. Diversity wasn't our strength. With John Biden, diversity was big business. Once the Trumper was back in the White House, one of the first things he did was eliminate the disease of diversity. It's the equivalent of moving the automotive industry out of Detroit and moving all those jobs overseas. When that happened decades ago to Detroit, look at the end result. City has never recovered, although the Trumper is trying to rebuild Detroit now. But over the last decade or so, the Minnesota dump has been the beacon of diversity. I have seen clips from inside the Mall of America. You would not recognize it. It looks like the Mall of Somalia. The rampant fraud is being investigated. Mythical daycares that were never open for business to begin with are being shut down. So maybe these protests aren't really about ICE. Maybe it's not about law enforcement. Maybe parishioners at Woke United Methodist are mad because they lost their diversity dream job and they are now faced with the reality of getting a real job. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.